on today's episode of As Jim Sees It.
King of the road, trailer for sailoring. Man, trailer for sailoring. Ain't got no cigarettes, but trailer for sailoring.
Good morning. This is Chris from As Jim Sees It. I'd like to thank everybody for watching thus far and giving the occasional like and the occasional comment where we tease each other and make fun of each other. I think that's really good. I think it makes the channel a little more fun. You know, if you can tease each other and learn to laugh at yourself, you never go unentertained. I'm waiting at the bank right now. Excuse me. I'll tell you, one of the things that is the most frustrating for me is when I make mistakes and they cost me money, and they weren't mistakes that were super immoral mistakes. You know, like I forgot to get my license plate sticker, and I don't know why it slipped me. It's because I've been working 2 jobs on top of running the channel, on top of working on the movie script and all these different things, and it just completely slipped my mind. And it's not like I didn't have the money and I was irresponsible. I just completely let it slip my mind, and I got pulled over the one night, and I'm like, why am I getting pulled over? I drive like a grandmother on purpose. I never go over the speed limit, and I stay 5 cars behind the car in front of me in case they get in an accident. When I was doing the bus life in 2020 through 2023, that was how I drove my bus. That way I didn't ever have to worry about running a bus into somebody. So anyhow, I get pulled over. He's like, your sticker's expired. I'm like, no way. And I knew right away. And the police officer could tell. He's like, dude, he's like, don't worry about it. I totally understand. Get it taken care of as soon as you can. I said, look, I got to get to work and I got to drive because I was going to the gas station where I work, and then I Uber drive on the weekends to make extra money. So I got to, what do I tell the police officers if I get pulled over? Like I'm genuinely trying to make money. So he goes, they'll probably let you go. I mean, don't worry about it, blah, blah, blah. So long story short, I get to the license bureau Monday morning to pay and buy my sticker. And I'm like, well, you have a car, so bring $60. I mean, I remember when I had a truck, it was like, I think it was like $50. So I figure a car might be a little cheaper. So I bring $60, right? It's actually my last $60 until today, because today is Tuesday, for my next paycheck, except for the little bit of Uber money that I had stashed away, which I'll get into. I get the money, go there, and they're like, it's $66. I'm like, oh my God. And they're like, there's a late fee for you taking so long to get your license plate. And I stayed calm because it's not the license bureau lady's fault that I wasn't responsible and didn't take care of my priorities. I said, hey, can you please just waive the late fee? Is there any way that can be done? She's like, all right, let me check. So they tried. She's like, no, can't do it. Right away. I'm blaming the governor right away. Not to her, but in my head, I'm like, this is crap. This is how they keep us down. Always somebody taking my money. I'm so sick of it. I'm so stressed out. And it's like 8 a.m., you know? And that was the thought that came into my head. So I look at her and just get dead silent because I don't want to act like a jerk to her. She could see I was frustrated. She's like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, I have to go. So I leave the license bureau and go home. And now I am at the bank. Oh yeah. So to go back, I was like, I'm going to go back to the bank, right? I'm going to go get the rest of the money because I got that Uber money. So Uber automatically throws money into your bank account if you don't do the payout right away at certain times weekly. And I think you can choose bi-weekly. So anyhow, they had thrown the leftover money that I had into the bank, which takes 1 to 3 business days to go through. So I could not drive my vehicle. I did not want a chance going to work last night and risk getting pulled over and then being like, we pulled you over already. You're getting another ticket, or you're getting a ticket because we already pulled you over. So yeah, that's kind of how, that's why I'm here at the bank this morning. I've been doing research on how to build your channel and how to get it to grow. Because I got to tell you, man, I've really struggled with building my YouTube channel. Now, I've always kind of had really raw content to where it looked like crap because I didn't have the money to get good editing software. I didn't have an iPhone like I have now. I was always, and I've talked about this in a previous video, I was always buying those $30 phones and having to use a phone card and blah, 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 yada, 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 because I was trying to save money instead of just going to work. Well, I worked when I did the bus life, but I mean like working and just saving your money and budgeting and just prioritizing everything and taking responsibilities on as much as possible. So anywho, they were talking about how people are looking for a connection with the audience. And I love talking with the audience. Like, let's say when I go out and do like a live show, because I'll do, you know, I don't know if it's like I don't consider it a comedy act. I consider it an entertainment act, but it's like intended to be funny, you know, because comics are on a totally different level than me. They're way higher. They're more calculated. They know how to read the crowds easier. Anyhow, whenever I play out live and like I'll do my entertainment act, I love talking with the crowd. I love talking with the audience. I think it's cool. So a lot of what YouTube's information is pumping out from the people that give kind of like tutorials to creators is that they have to have one-on-one engagement with the audience, almost like a conversation. So that's, you know, I'm going to start incorporating that more. And the one thing I've had a lot of people ask me is, who is Jim? And I always tell them, you know, that's a great question. Who is Jim? And Jim's a mystery. Jim's real, but Jim's a mystery. And once you figure out who Jim is, because Jim's in every episode, darn near every episode. And once you see who Jim is or figure out who Jim is, don't tell anybody, but like you'll see it and you'll be like, oh, that's Jim. Oh, there's Jim. Because the comedy series, this is called As Jim Sees It, as you see on the thumbnails and the title headings and all those things. And update on the screenplay. It's completely done. I am sending it out this week. It's called The Final Vigilante. I'm sending it out this week, resubmitting it after I had submitted it once already. Got some feedback and I'm made the fixes and I'm going to send it back in. And now I'm working on a rough draft. I had talked about that in a previous video as well. And that one is definitely like a you know, FBI one, going after a criminal again. Antagonist, protagonist, typical story, good versus evil, which is going to prevail. And I just, you know, I'm really excited for that project. I also make electronic music, so I've really struggled with years to find my sound with my electronic music. And the past 2 years I've been using this synthesizer called Vital, and I'm starting to develop my sound a little bit, I think. So hopefully in the next year I can upload my first electronic music album, which would be exciting for me, you know, to meet that goal. Because I'll tell you, that's like the biggest rabbit hole you'll ever go down, is trying to unveil the different frequencies of electronic music. It is surely an adventure, a frustrating one at times as well. What got me into the arts and electronic music and writing and things like that, I was in college for art because when I was a little kid, they gave me one of those IQ tests, and I didn't do so well on the IQ part. But the one part I really excelled in was the creativity. It was like abnormally high, the way I was able to create things. So, rather than being an entrepreneur and trying to create like something to make society a better place, I thought that being creative was only for the arts when I first really started to pursue these goals, which, going back, had I known it was more than that, maybe I would have changed my path. I don't know, but I went to college for art, and I was in this math class, it was an English class, which I was absolutely terrible at. Like, no, that's not true. No. I'm sorry. I was terrible at the math. The English I struggled with, but it was only, I'm telling you, it was only based on the teacher. Like, anybody who can relate, sometimes you get a teacher, no matter what grade you're in or what, and if that teacher doesn't like you, you're going to struggle in that class. There's no way around it. That's been my experience. So there was this woman, she was a very kind woman. She started giving me rides to college. And because I was biking everywhere. I was biking like, I don't know, ridiculous amounts of miles. And the one day she goes, I'm taking this poetry class. You should take it with me. You seem like the art type. And I was like, at first I'm thinking, I ain't taking no poetry. That's stupid. And she goes, you should take it. So I go and sign up for it, and I go in, and I don't even think she ended up taking the class, which was kind of weird. And I know the poetry teacher, like in a social circle where we have mutual friends. And I was like, hey, what's going on, man? How are you? He's like, good. So he sits down, and man, it was an amazing experience for me. I was first introduced to Dylan Thomas's poem, Do Not Go Gently Into the Night. I'm screwing up the title because I'm kind of in the moment, but it's like one of the most amazing poems ever. And it was before I knew it came from Christopher Nolan's movie Interstellar, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. And he's one of my favorite directors. And anyhow, so I've got to get back on track. I have a DUHUD. That's short for ADHD. So he introduces me to poetry, and it really opened up my world. I learned about my favorite types of poems are villanelles, which is what that Dylan Thomas poem is. I like making little 2 and 3 line poems and 4 line poems. Those are fun. They're hard because it's hard to be impactful with a poem and use 1 line, you know what I mean, or 2 or 3 lines. Like, it's a lot easier generally to have like a mode of poetry to where like the end stanza or the end line is boom, it just kind of sums it up like that, like a chord for a song that resolutes, the end chord and starts the progression again. So it's they do that with words. Well, anyhow, he's like, I'm going to be doing a playwriting class. You guys should take it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, let's do it. All right, I'm taking it. So I take the playwriting class. Now, I was also taking a film appreciation class, and I don't know what happened or why I heard what I heard in his class. He said it was our first assignment. It was like a weekend. He goes, I want you guys to write a 10-minute screenplay. That's what he said. And I'm like, okay, don't know how to write a screenplay. Whatever. So we go over the format of what he expects, the formula, how to build a story. It's pretty basic. And, there's tons of formats, But the one that I learned, it just clicked as soon as he gave it the direction. I intuitively was just in tune with what he said, and I was like, I can do that. And I identified it in other shows that I had been watching at the time, because I was always, like I said in a prior video, I'm a huge movie guy. I love watching movies. I love analyzing movies. I love everything about them, the lighting, the music, the score. You know, even as a kid, I would get the scores from movies before the movie came out, you know. So anyhow, I go home and I write out this screenplay, right? And it's like 3 or 4 days later, we come in, it's a 10-minute screenplay, and he starts reading it, and he's like squinting his eyes and shaking his head no. And I'm like, uh-oh. Oh man, I did something wrong. I've made a lot of teachers upset. I know I did something wrong. And he goes, what part of 10-minute play did you not understand, Mr. Malo? And I'm like, screenplay. And he's like, 10-minute play. This is a movie. He's like, you wrote a screenplay. And it was only what I did was I formatted a 10-minute, I tried to make a 10-minute movie, and I formatted it in a screenplay. And when he said that, the whole class was reading it, and it had a bunch of thespians there and actors and actresses that did plays and all this stuff. And I looked at him and I knew right then and there, I said, I'm doing this for the rest of my life. This is what I want to do. It was a voice inside that said, no matter what happens, till the day that I die, I'm going to write screenplays. And he was upset, and he was going to like fail me. And the whole class, he goes, what do you guys think? And they go, oh no, we need to keep reading this. And the whole class read it out and loved it. And the one girl at the very end started to cry because of the end. It was a love story thing that I made. And I was like, no, listen to me. I'm not saying I'm going to go win a Grammy or I'm good. What I'm saying is that it gave me a sense of hope that I could write, because I thought I was, not capable of doing anything. I was told my whole life, you're learning disabled and slow, so you're probably going to have to be on Social Security disability. And some people might still argue and say, he works at a gas station. They were probably right. But I still wrote a screenplay recently, and I got it done. It took me a few years. It's called, like I said, it's called The Final Vigilante. So that led me on the road to where I am right here, right now. And, I'm really, really, really excited about turning this thing in and seeing what happens. So, yeah, that's kind of where the screenplay and the idea for that came from. So, yeah, that's part of today's As Jim Sees It. And hope you enjoy the comedy coming up after this episode. Hope you enjoy the comedy that's coming right after this, because I'm going to see how things work with the feedback from talking to you, the audience, and putting comedy stuff that's entertaining and blah, blah, blah. I might even put some drama and some poetry up. I don't know. So, all right, man. Have a great day. Bye. The feeling that I get from work, I can't take it anymore.